Hey everybody, it's RJ Stevenson. Glad you all were able to join me tonight, and hoping that tonight is going to be the first of many conversations concerning enough is enough. I did this series earlier on during this season, right after the announcement of the death of George Floyd. We all thought and would have imagined that our tide would have changed by now. Seems like we're still in the same place. Tonight, I've brought on some brothers that have a peculiar perspective about what it is to feel like enough is enough as regards to our culture, our church, our community. First, let me bring on Pastor Trey, as we call him, Pastor Henry Green. He's the pastor of Payne Chapel in West Palm Beach, Florida. How you doing tonight, sir?
I'm doing well. Thank you for having me tonight, Pastor Stevenson.
Yes, sir. Thank you for joining us, man. Up next, we got Pastor Nathaniel Robinson, the proud pastor down there in Coconut Grove, Florida. What's up, brother? How you doing tonight?
I'm great, man. Thanks for having me. What's up, Trey?
What's going on, Nate?
We're waiting on somebody to make a grand entrance. Just give him a couple of moments. He reached out to us. Here we go. Coming onto the stage is Reverend Dr. Robert Jackson III, the pastor of St. Paul in Miami, Florida. What's going on there, sir?
What's up, gentlemen?
It's all good. Look, I'm glad to have us all here tonight. If you're watching from wherever you're watching from, do us a favor. Start your watch parties. Like, share, do your commenting.
Is it okay for me to say that I don't know how to start the watch party on the new Facebook?
Me neither, man.
I am flabbergasted at these.
So what you do is you go to the link on the page, click share, and when you click share, it's gonna give you options down below, and you just start watch party.
Okay, see, that's not one of the options for me, but we'll off screen. We'll take the time out for some tutorial.
Yeah,
I don't have that option. Maybe I need to update my computer.
Man, we got it. Man. All right. So, look, tonight's conversation is going to be quite provocative. I don't believe in doing this with people who are going to give me cupcake answers to questions. And I know that you all are strong leaders in the areas where you are. I've seen some of the stuff that you all have done, and you all have particular strong voices in your area of perspective. We got a lot of people who are joining in tonight, and thank you all for being a part of the conversation. You got questions, you got comments, pull them over to the side, and we'll make sure that we bring them on the screen and address them as they go. Quite frankly, I was speaking to a friend of mine earlier, and he alluded to the fact that he had been on Zoom meetings all day long, had been running from place to place, and really didn't understand what all the uproar was about until he got home, jumped on YouTube, and there it was in front of him, the decision that we had all been waiting for. So listen, just in case you missed it, I want to make sure we start with a level playing field. I want to share with you all the item of discussion for tonight. Take a look at the screen.
After hearing the evidence from our team of prosecutors, the grand jury voted to return an indictment against Detective Hankinson for 3 counts of wanton endangerment for wantonly placing the 3 individuals in apartment 3 in danger of serious physical injury or death. The charge of wanton endangerment in the first degree is a Class D felony, and if found guilty, the accused can serve up to 5 years for each count. Kentucky law states that a person is guilty of wanton endangerment in the first degree when, under circumstances manifesting extreme indifference to the value of human life, he wantonly engages in conduct which creates a substantial danger of death or serious physical injury to another person. The accused is prepared to prove these charges at trial. However, it's important to note that he is presumed innocent until proven guilty. During the last 6 months, we've all heard mention of possible charges that could be brought in this case. It's important to understand that all the charges that have been mentioned have specific meanings and ramifications. Criminal homicide encompasses the taking of a life by another. While there are 6 possible homicide charges under Kentucky law, these charges are not applicable to the facts before us because our investigation showed and the grand jury agreed that Mattingly and Cosgrove were justified in the return of deadly fire after having been fired upon by Kenneth Walker. Let me state that again. According to Kentucky law, the use of force by Mattingly and Cosgrove was justified to protect themselves. This justification bars us from pursuing criminal charges in Miss Breonna Taylor's death. The truth is now before us. The facts have been examined and a grand jury comprised.
That's enough for me. In essence, Officer Hankinson is indicted on wanton endangerment. They find that the officers were well within their rights of duty to return fire, and there will be no further charges pressed in the case of the murder of Breonna Taylor. It's a hard pill, man.
But sorry, go ahead. Sorry.
It's a hard pill. As it regards to what we do as pastors, living, dwelling places, and residences, the truth of the matter is this could have been anybody, anywhere. But as it regards to the announcement and the decision in the case, seems to be another situation where there's no right way to live Black in America. There's no right way to just exist in your home. I'm sure you had something that you wanted to live.
Well, no, I was just saying, like, my immediate response to hearing, Daniel Cameron read out the list of charges or non-charges, as we can really call them, against the police officers. For me, it's it feels very deliberate, feels very intentional. The message that's set for Black people in America who, by and large, across the country have, in response to this case, have overwhelmingly shown their displeasure for the way the police executed their duties. To kind of dismiss people as being uninformed and ignorant to the duties of police officers. Everybody's got the facts. Everyone who's got a newspaper can read the facts of this case. And so just my immediate reaction is just that I'm annoyed. I don't even use annoyed. Like, I'm almost mortified at the fact that this is real life. And this is the time that God has called me to preach in, to speak a word on his behalf. Because as people who carry the gospel, this would be a time where if we were just feel good preachers or people who were, called, who are out here, selling sermons for entertainment, like it would, even if that was the case, if I was just preaching merely just to raise a budget and a salary, it would be hard to find an adequate word for the Lord, even if that was my goal. But for someone who has a heart for prophetic ministry and feels like the Lord is causing me to speak to the time, there's almost a loss for words. And so, I just it's really tough to. It's been a rough couple of days, and I know I'm not the only one who has feelings in reaction to that.
Pastor Robinson, how you feeling, man?
Man, I think I've run out of angry. Like, you run out of mad. Like, it's confusing, it's perplexing, and it's almost becoming. I'm nervous because I'm starting to accept these kinds of displays of injustice as normal. You know, what keeps us fighting is that we know it's not supposed to be this way, that we don't normalize it, that we don't allow it to become something that we accept. And I was frightened by this one because I went to sleep. You know, I heard the verdict. I didn't like it, but I wasn't surprised. And so that frightens me. I'm afraid that I don't have bad dreams about this anymore. And, you know, I'm raising a daughter in a society that's really numb to injustice, the mistreatment of our people, the unjust use of force, unnecessary use of force, police brutality, and a system that justifies the behavior and doesn't view Black life as relevant or valuable. So, you know, this is an unnerving and uncertain time for us. And as my bro said, as Pastor Trey said, you know, I'm struggling because I got to say something to people on behalf of God about what's going on. And what propels us to do that is our ability to feel, our ability to and so when you get to the point where you don't have feelings, it's frightening. So man, I'm afraid. I'm not afraid I'm not fearful, but I'm afraid, you know, because I'm starting to accept this as normal subconsciously, you know, not that I want to, but subconsciously I'm starting to accept it or expect it. And that's scary for me.
Reverend Dr. Robert Jackson, what you thinking, sir?
I'm a little bit different. I'm mad as hell. Like this is not normal. We can't normalize this type of behavior. Right? We can't make this. We can't give the appearance that this is how things are supposed to happen. And I'm even more frightened that people of color, particularly Black people, have lost the fight, have lost the wind has been taken out of their sails and out of our sails because we become like Pastor Robinson said, we've lost our feelings. We sort of expected this. The truth is, you know, we're sitting here, but the truth is, we in the back of our minds, we were expecting this because we know that there's not been a shift in the culture as it relates to how people of color are treated in America. And the disenchanting part about it is we ourselves have become comfortable with this, and it's not until we become angry enough to stand up together and do something together that it's going to make a difference. This is a hard pill to swallow, simply because you come into someone's home and you kill them when you, number one, wasn't supposed to be there. Number two, the person that you were looking for was already in custody. Number three, you get charges. You charge an officer for shooting up a wall, but not killing a person. Are you saying to us that Black people are not as important or people of color are not as valuable as shooting up a wall? It's disheartening. It's disenchanting. It's everything that you can put diss to. We just been dissed, and we have to do better. And in our fight for the things that we need to happen, there has to be some real reform that has to take place. We just had a primary, and you know, we put in elect.
Oh, we lost him. There it is.
Okay.
Who would be responsible for these things into office, and the people we're putting into office seemingly has the opinion that all lives don't matter, and we ain't even gonna talk about Black lives.
We got a comment that was just made that sort of brings this home. Aisha Brown says, "This is tough. That could have been me. My kids could have been left motherless with no justice served at all, and her life mattered. We've been talking about Black Lives Matter now. Black Lives Matter and Christian life are two terms that are trending. Trending terms ain't stopping folks from being killed. And we got to find a way to make this matter. Our job is, as Pastor Trey said, our job is to have something to say on behalf of God. It's a hard pill to stand no longer in front of a room full of congregants, but to stand and speak to webcams and 4K cameras about to somebody who would be listening, making a decision about how they will respond and react. In Louisville, they are having the same response that I imagine we will be having in Tampa. Okay. And it is only a matter of time. So to me, we sort of stand in the crux between how we feel as humans and how we're supposed to respond and react as pastors. And quite frankly, it's getting interesting. Every time somebody dies, the line blurs because it is becoming more and more difficult for me to encourage young people not to go and take action because it seems like those who are elected to represent us don't act. What are you all saying? What are you preparing to say? Don't give us your sermons because we want those to be fresh. But what do you?
I don't think anybody has a sermon prepared.
You have to worry about that.
Yeah, I don't think anybody's prepared at this point. I mean, we got to struggle. I'm gonna jump in, Pastor RJ. I think we have to realize that the psychological and the emotional abuse that America puts us through as people of color. America is constantly messing with our minds, right? Because they'll allow us to be smart enough to go to college, and then they'll raise the tuition so we can't afford it. I mean, just the psychological abuse and mental and emotional abuse that we deal with at the hands of the country is ridiculous. And there's a term that's been coined. It's called intimate domestic violence. Intimate domestic violence is pretty much when it's disguised as love or disguised as concern or care, but it acts in violence. So it disguises as I'm here to protect you and I'm here to serve you and I'm here to look out for you. But the goal of it is to control you. Like anybody's ever known anyone in a domestic abusive relationship, the idea is to pretend like I'm taking care of you, but once you get out of control, I got to beat you back in the line and act out of violence. So here, our law enforcement is supposed to. It says it protects and serves, but that's really just it's a domestic abuse. It's a domestically abusive relationship. It's an intimately abusive relationship because when they can't control us, they use violence to whip us back in the line. And so I think we've got to be careful about trying to preach sermons or to talk to young adults about being controlled, because the greatest weapon that we have against people in power in this country is them not being able to control us. And so I think that we have to learn how to teach our people how to not allow themselves to be controlled by people in power, but to do that in a way so they don't get killed. But we've also got to look at who Jesus was. Jesus himself was willing to die in the fight against oppression and social injustice. And so I don't know how many of us are willing to take up that mantle and be willing to die. I mean, I have children, I got a family.
I'm sorry, I don't want to interrupt. I really don't want to interrupt. But can I say one of the hardest things about pastoring and being having a prophetic voice during this time is to know that most of the churches in our communities, in our neighborhoods, and in my case, the church that I pastor does not have a built-in resistance theology.
Yeah,
we have a theology that says that resistance is a part of our religious integrity and duty.
Right. Yeah.
And so without that built in, a lot of times our reactions to things like this are seen on the larger scale. When we talk about Christianity across the board, it seems unholy or divisive, are the words that they use around now. These days. And when things get termed divisive, then they don't fall along with the will of God and all these kinds of talks like that. But let me say this, like, as Nate was just pointing out, and I want to catch him right there because I don't want to go any further, is that a lot, the duty of Christ was in there flipping over tables. Like the New Testament is a book about reform. It's a testament about reform.
Yeah.
The entire New Testament, from the Gospels down to the epistles, are about things changing from wickedness and moving towards righteousness.
Right.
And so when we start having these conversations in America, I want to shout out my man, Dr. Darrell Williams, who actually posted on Instagram a little while ago, maybe a couple of days ago. He posted this meme that said, "Are you a Christian?" And I had to respond. My response is usually, "Are you talking about classic Christian or Republican Christian?" Because it seems like two different types of Christianity going on in this country right now.
Yeah.
And for the people who claim to be conservative and that sort of, I don't know what Jesus they talking about. I don't know what Jesus they are referring to when they speak holy things and try to put God in this demonic system that they call God.
Right. And so when we start having
So in Bible study right now, myself and Reverend Cheryl Farrell, we're covering the book of Acts, sharing how the Holy Spirit in a transitional space manifests himself, not just watching Jesus anymore, but doing what Jesus did, walking how Jesus walked, not just remembering what he did with his hands, but putting my hands on somebody myself. And looking through where we are with our community consistently being attacked, our community consistently having hands put on us. I don't think we should be responding to it. I think we should be reacting to it. I think that we should be finding ways to empower those in our community. I think Pastor Trey is right. I think the time and season for us holding hands and singing songs is not over, but there's got to be something added to the end of that song. At the end of church, after the benediction, we just can't kumbaya. I mean, to me, I've always waited for an opportunity for the church to say something. Like, they took prayer out of schools. The church had no response. Changing the definition of social structures in our world, the church has no response. And I don't know how to live in that space. Quite frankly, as a man of God, as a preacher, as a pastor, as a leader of people, it makes me feel sterile at times that there is not more potential or there's not more power behind our words, and that we're not just speaking, but putting truth to power. And quite frankly, I'm frustrated. What are we going to do? That's the question. We're asking, where do we go from here as it turns of this pandemic? But obviously, for me, enough is enough. What are we going to do?
I don't know that I would say that the church has never responded. I think the church has always responded. I think the contemporary church is facing something that's a little different and is struggling to respond. But throughout time, throughout history, the church has always responded, beginning with Jesus. His existence in and of itself occurred because people were being oppressed and marginalized. And so he came to earth as a response to oppression, unfair treatment, and was born and lived amongst the marginalized, and then spoke up for them and eventually died for them. We're all on this call. We're all AMEs, and Absalom Jones, who became Episcopalian, Richard Allen and others, they responded to oppression in the country with the first protest, and started their own church And then when they were unable to be educated, they started their own schools. So I think the church in general has always responded. I just think the response has to change shape. It isn't what it once was. It isn't, if we aren't affecting policy, we aren't affecting finances, which is something new that we've got to figure out how to do in the 21st century, then our responses are not as effective. But the church has always responded. And I think it's time for us. We've got to figure out how to shape our response in the new paradigm.
Shape our response. What does that shape look like, Dr. Jackson?
Number one, police reform. We have to reform the police and law enforcement. They cannot have the ability to break laws that other people wouldn't have. If it was me breaking in or going into somebody's house and shooting up the house and killing somebody, I would be in jail for first degree, second degree, or manslaughter. Already. No questions asked. Number one, it wouldn't have gone to a group of people to make a decision of whether it would have gone to court. It would have gone to court, period. So for me, we have to reform how things are being done. Every instance where a law enforcement officer takes the life of a person unwanted or unnecessarily, to me, should go to court, period. Because if it was me, if it was any of us on this phone, on this Zoom tonight, all of us, if we did the same things that some of these law enforcement officers did, we'd be going to court for it.
Yeah. I'm sorry. I was watching TNT tonight with Shaq and Charles Barkley. Mm-hmm. I love to hear those brothers talk about basketball. But these brothers, they got this platform and they're talking about how they hate how all these killings get lumped in together, because the facts as they see it, as they heard it, someone repeated to them, I know they didn't read it, were that the brother was shooting at the police. But when you understand, like, you got ununiformed officers banging on your door in the middle of the night in whatever neighborhood that you live in. I mean, everyone has the right to stand their ground. If you come banging on my door at 12 o'clock at night, ununiformed, and not presenting yourself as police officers, there's something I got tucked away in my home that you're gonna get introduced to, period. Mm-hmm. But as Jack says, when you in our position, men of God, carriers of the gospel, a lot of times people think that that there's some kind of exception for us that shouldn't apply to other people, and it really doesn't. We are African American males. I wish we would have had one of our sisters on there, but as Black men and women in this particular context, we have to be on guard, whether it be the police or otherwise.
Yeah. Right.
So people naturally stand in their ground. We have stand your ground laws in Florida for that reason. Yeah. So that if people run up on your crib sometime in the night, you know what I'm saying? If you bust at them, you in the right.
Mm-hmm.
So there's no but to hear Shaq and Charles Barkley, side with the police officers because this guy shot his weapon. Understand, it lets me know where we are as a people in the levels to understanding on these issues. Because we like to say that as much as we feel bad that we're all together, but the truth is we're not together.
Absolutely
not. Right.
And even further, Reverend Trey, for some reason, based upon our academic attainment, our financial success, we begin to think that we're excluded from certain things, and that it won't happen to us, and that we don't have those issues, and we don't have those problems, and that perhaps to a greater sense of the issue is how we have sort of separated ourselves as Black people and began to categorize ourselves even as Black in different areas. I'm not like them, and I'm not like them, and I don't have those issues, and I don't have those problems. When the truth of the matter is, it just depends on the day and the time of day, you can have the same problem that somebody who lives in the pork and beans in Miami has. It's not about whether or not you have outlived it or outgrown it. It's just a matter of time.
Right.
And if you've never had that issue, and I think what happens to so many of us, we begin to think that because of where I am, it won't happen to me. But we forget to remember that it used to happen to me before I got to where I am.
Right.
And we have to stand together as a people to make a difference, because if we don't do that, it's not going to change anything.
And what's real is it used to happen to you before you got to where you are.
Yeah.
But the truth of the matter is they don't care where you are, because to them, you're guilty of driving while black. You're guilty of walking through your neighborhood that they don't believe is your neighborhood while black. You're guilty of drinking Sprite and eating Skittles. You're guilty of taking a jog. You're guilty of sitting in your house minding your own business. And whatever it is that we've been able to accomplish personally, they do not give a hill of beans about, because what I know is a bullet don't have no name on it, don't have no designator. So it's a matter of you said that we've overcome it. I don't feel like I've overcome it, honestly. I feel like I preach in a very urban context. The Hillsborough Sheriff Department might drive down the street any day. Tampa PD might come around the corner any moment. And quite frankly, if they have a profile of an African American male, short hair, around 5'9" to 6 foot, brown skin complexion, I'm guilty. And I don't necessarily know what my response is supposed to be. I mean, we've told young brothers, hey, put your hands on the steering wheel, be very cordial to the police officer when they show up. In this case with Breonna Taylor, she won't end, it won't even a traffic stop. She was sitting in her doggone house, minding her own business, and all of a sudden now, justice sounds like her life is not justified. I don't know what the response should be, but we got to find a different response than that. For all of you all who've been trying to share, thank you all for letting me know the status of the post has been changed to public. Please share out as much as you possibly can. Let's look at this video that Pastor Trey shared a little while ago, and we'll be right back.
Compelled by the spirit of men and women who have descended upon this place, Louisville, Kentucky, to tell Mayor Greg Fisher and Attorney General Daniel Cameron that the people of this community, we will not be silent. So tonight we remember the sisters. We remember Kendra James, Catherine Thomas, Sarika Wilson, Taisha Miller, Ayanna Stanley Jones, Rakia Lloyd, Chantel Davis, Renisha McBride, Sandra Bland, Yvette Smith, Pamela Turner, Tatiana Jefferson, and indeed Breonna Taylor. Tonight we say their names because they will continue to live on. In the midst of the society we find ourselves in, we discover that we are screaming out loud, I cannot breathe. How ironic are we declaring the fact that we cannot breathe because the police officers knees on our neck in the midst of a COVID-19 pandemic that is also attacking our upper respiratory system.
Tell you Christians, don't be mad, don't be angry because it's a sin. The doctrine in the Christian church says that righteous indignation is fit for those who believe in God. And when you're angry from a righteous place, God will not be upset with you. We will continue righteous indignation. We believe that God is still in control, and we're going to fight until the battle is over. With our arms raised tonight, we know that God is on our side. And we know that God, if He is with us, then He is more than the whole world that can be against us.
Right now, what we're saying is we want the safety that Louisville's safest communities have. We want the safety that America's 10 safest neighborhoods have. It's not police. That's the safety we want.
And so if we didn't show up for Breonna Taylor and her family, Breonna would be in New York. Breonna would be in Minneapolis. Breonna would be in New Jersey. Breonna would be in Chicago. Breonna would be in LA. Breonna would be all over the world. Breonna would be you and me, and in fact, we are Breonna Taylor. So is in need.
Atlanta, up until 5 months ago, was the headquarters for civil rights.
Big statement. Atlanta was the epicenter of civil rights. Now Louisville, Kentucky is. Tomorrow, Tampa, Florida might be. Miami might be. At this point, it could be anybody, anywhere. Pastor Trey, you were on the ground there in Kentucky. Can you tell us what the tone was like, what it felt like there? What was it like there in Kentucky, man?
Well, what I could say is that for like being there for that, I spent about 4 days in Kentucky for BriannaCon, and they were having this. The organizers there, some of you saw from the video, Tamika Mallory, many others, my Sana General, a few other guys. These guys are organizers and activists who committed. They've been there for over 100 days living in that city to provoke justice, and they're agitating, the mayor, of course, Daniel Cameron. They were arrested for sitting on the district attorney's lawn, and that number became the, this was 88 people were arrested. Of course, I was arrested in the good trouble number 65. We were accosted on the bridge for a protest that was leading toward the site of the Kentucky Derby. From spending that time in there and meeting Breonna Taylor's mother, or speaking at a praise in the park that was led by these activists, is a very spiritual movement that they're having. And the activists in that community have found a positive way to tie in spirituality to this fight. So this said two things to me. Number one, it said the first thing is that a lot of people who were feeling the outrage that people are rioting and are, voicing their disapproval to the decision in Louisville, they really don't understand what's going on. A lot of people who are leading the aggression that's coming out of that city, they have a spiritual foundation that's been led because they've been having a lot of their meetings in churches. They've been having a lot of their direct action planning done with ministers in the city. So what people are broadcasting, what people are seeing on television is anger and violence and people tearing up stuff. But what people don't understand is that these people are prepared to be disappointed, but they also have a firm base that this isn't about some quick fix. This is about the will of God being done. But the second thing also was that the people in Louisville are just like the people here in Florida. They're living in a society that's got old laws of oppression at work. And that those old laws aren't just laws. They're part of the culture of the city. Like people expect certain things because downtown, there's hotels. Black folks know that black folks know that other black folks don't stay in that hotel, even if you're from out of town. Even if, there's places that people just don't go. And we subconsciously in South Florida, in this melting pot that we live in West Florida, in the melting pot that you live in, we act like these things don't exist down here in Miami. But they do. They're not as pronounced, they're not as in our face, but culturally, those climates still exist, even in this melting pot that we live in. But Louisville was I felt like I was at home in Louisville. And I really do appreciate the work that those activists are doing on the ground in that very old school. Listen, they got a Democratic district attorney, Democratic mayor, Democratic governor. So, as I said earlier on Facebook, like telling people to just vote, that ain't gonna get it. Because we vote Democrat to make sure that when Breonna Taylor is our sister or cousin, that our sister or cousin can get justice if she's killed in her sleep by the police officers who are banging on her door late at night. Now, to know that you hired all these Democrats and you don't put them in place in office and you still can't get no justice. The district attorney recused himself and gave it to Daniel Cameron, who then did what we saw yesterday. Mm-hmm. So listen, now what I learned in Louisville was that when I met this pastor named Tim Finley, who is probably has one of the most vibrant, I won't say the biggest, but he's probably got one of the most vibrant congregations in the city of Louisville. What he's done, he's moved alongside of the activists. A lot of times pastors don't engage in civil organization or getting people together is because we can't be in charge or we can't be out front. But a lot of times you got to let these people who have the numbers, who have those who are motivated and organized, you have to let them work with you Make your spaces available to them and let them lead and you follow. Now, at a certain point, you know what I'm saying? Like there's got to be mutual respect for one another, but at the same time, we got to put our egos to the side and get organized, because that's the only way we're ever going to be able to have enough strength to affect change. And it ain't going, if you're waiting for it to happen at the annual conference, you waiting for some change to happen at the district conference, at the Sunday school convention.
So in the structure of our church,
we got to get in the streets.
Yeah, in the structure of our church, we have some built-in mechanics that would tell us that we are prepared even for times like these, to already organize, to already be resilient, to already be able to mobilize and move. We know very well that is not always effective. What do we do? I'm not looking. Y'all's conference just finished. Mine is on the way.
Wonderful job.
I'm not looking forward to giving a pastor's report, talking about a lot of stuff, but not coming back to my church to affect positive change in my community. Each one of you give me one thing as an idea that we can do to prepare our congregations for mobilization and being effective towards causes such as this.
Well, I was just about to get to this point, and I was saying, like, I'm not having no more politicians come pull up on my church and bum rush my service for 15 minutes before I know what they plan to do for me and my community. Like, you can't have your people call me or call my secretary and say we coming, this, that, and the other. No, I have to first. You're not gonna get the microphone in my sacred space that I done consecrated and prayed over, and sit there and sell a bunch of lies, and I don't see you again until the next time you want to get elected, or you trying to take some pictures with some Negroes to put on a flyer.
Yeah,
that is the first thing that's out the door. But then the second thing is we got to raise up our own candidates.
Right.
These AME churches be notorious for having the politicians.
Yes,
and
right.
The politicians didn't come out of nowhere. We empowered these people. You ought to run. You ought to be here. You ought to be on this committee. And we got to start raising up our own people. That's the most important and impactful thing I think that the church can do. And it's our responsibility to get back to that. We be just so glad for somebody to come and hang out a few Sundays and come eat a free plate of food. And we forget that we're supposed to be pushing people in the right direction.
Right. Hey, we got to be the city commissioners. We got to be the mayor. We got to run for those offices. The other thing, too, in addition to pushing people to being in positions of political power, is that we've got to understand our role. Right now, it's attractive to be the pastor that's on TV leading the march down the middle of the street. Like right now, that's attractive. It's attractive to be the pastor that's on the news, that's on social media, that's out in the front. And no shade to the pastors that's their role. That's do what you do. If you're an organizer, if you got to do your thing. But what we've forgotten is that there's another side to that work. There's a whole bunch of people behind the people that are out in the front on the front line that are making things happen. So H.T. Smith, if you're not familiar with H.T. Smith, he's a very prominent lawyer in Miami. He actually protested the Orange Bowl. He actually stopped the Orange Bowl in the city of Miami like 30 years ago. But H.T. Smith, I was having a conversation with him, and he said to me, you got to have your tree shakers and you got to have your jelly makers, right? And so your tree shakers are your agitators. Those are the people who are on the front line. Those are the people who you see on TV. Those are the people who are in the face of the commissioners and the governor and the mayor, and they're shaking the tree, right? And they're going to make some stuff fall out of the tree. But if there's no jelly makers, who are the people who collect everything that falls and knows how to take what falls from the tree and process it and make it so that the people can benefit from it, then you have nothing. If everybody wants to be a tree shaker, everybody wants to be on an agitator, everybody wants to be on TV, but you got to have that group of people that catch what falls when the tree is shaking, knows how to process it, put it together, put it into programs, make it a usable resource so that the community can benefit from it. And so in addition to putting people in positions of authority, we've got to also have that undergirding support system in place that knows how to write the grants, knows how to write legislation, that is connected to lawyers and the firms and the different organizations. We've got to have the whole thing. And so that's what I would recommend for us to do practically in our locations.
Dr. Jackson, what you got for us?
Man, we gotta fight. I'm just bottom line, dude. Like, we gotta fight. We gotta raise holy hell. We have to everything that Pastor Trey and everything that Pastor Nate have said, and undergird that with standing. We can't be afraid to be in opposition. We cannot be afraid to not go along. We have to cause some ripples in the water. We gotta rip some stuff up. And I'm not saying be violent. That's not what I'm projecting or what I'm putting forth. But I'm saying we have to be we have to consistently demonstrate our disdain for things that hurt our people. And we're not good at that. We'll do it for a season and then we'll let it go. And unfortunately, in the context of our culture, Black people are some of the nicest people that you ever want. We love everybody. We don't have no problem with people. We don't have a problem with other people. We let them in. You know, they live in our communities. We don't have those same issues that people have with us. What I'm saying is, we're going to have to begin to value us more than we value other people, and value us more than we value other things. And that means we got to put some things in perspective. We got to make our communities stronger, our community better. We have to put people in leadership. We got to put, I like what Pastor Trey said, man. I'm going to take that. You can't speak here unless you come tell me your platform. We got to have a platform, and we got to put it forth, and we got to make sure that people who are representing our community, whether they're Black or any other color, are going to represent the people that we serve the way they need to be represented. And that means that we gotta take a stand. We have to be honest with people that, listen, man, I'm not just going to support you because you Black, or I'm not just going to support you because you come here and, like Trey said, speak for 15 minutes. We need to hear more. We need to see more. And we have to do better at collectively gathering our community leaders and people together to be intentional about shifting the mindsets of our people, and particularly our congregations. Well, we gotta. The Bible says that the kingdom of heaven suffered violence, and the violent taking it by force. Now, it's not saying that we are taking the kingdom. It says that God's kingdom is being ravaged by violent people. So how do you combat hermeneutically? How do you fight violence violent people taking over the kingdom, or trying to ravage the kingdom, and you're just sitting back like nothing happened?
You know, the reason why I was so honored to be on this platform with you guys, you know, I look at the ministries, that you all have. Pastor Stevenson been the most consistent content creator from his church that I've seen during the pandemic thus far. Me and Nate both been mentored by Dr. Jackson, been able to sit under him and learning how to plan and develop ministry. The same thing that comes into our communities, we got to look at it toward our ministry. And Jack really taught me how to have a full holistic view toward ministry. Like, everything he does is intentional toward his ministry. So when we start attacking racism, when we start attacking police reform, and we start attacking the legal system, we need a plan. We need to list and entrust the people who have a plan. When I say politicians need to come talk to me before they come to my church, I need to know what the plan is.
Exactly.
Right.
Because everybody got the same rap.
Yeah.
Everybody got the same talk.
They're gonna tell you what you want to hear.
Yeah, they're gonna say exactly what we want to hear.
But what's the plan?
Nothing changed. So I don't want to hear what I want to hear. I want to hear your plan. And then I want to be able to intellectualize whether or not I think it's going to work.
Right.
Because if you got a real plan, I may not be able to see it, but if I could at least hear the passion that you have for it, I may be convinced to walk with you. Because that's what we do, right? We take people on ministerial journeys. A lot of times when we tell people God put something on their heart, the people can't see it.
Exactly.
People don't know how it's going to work.
Exactly.
But they can feel the passion that we have because they understand that we ain't just that smart all the time, but God spoke to us. And the thing's gonna have to happen. So I got to get that from everybody who's coming to my church trying to get it, but they're trying to have that. And but I also now I know we say this all the time, but this pandemic brought it to pass where the church went forcibly outside the walls, right?
Yeah.
We ain't have we can't even get inside church anymore, especially if we AME.
Right.
So the church got to stay out here in the streets. You know what I'm saying? We got to get outside the walls. And I know a lot of our members can't be out in the sun too long. We got a different kind of sun down here and all that sort of a thing. But we got to take this thing outside. Like all that worshiping on Sunday morning just to worship is dead because we got an opportunity to do something with these churches.
We can shift the paradigm.
But when we do something meaningful with the church and we shift the paradigm, that's going to be the resurrecting fluid to get people back in the building, get people back active in our ministry. And this is the gift in what people have already diagnosed as the curse.
You know what I think during the pandemic, we sort of hit the eject button and everybody just went to do whatever they was doing at home. So if you didn't teach evangelism before the pandemic, you know evangelism ain't happening when they're at home. If you didn't teach spiritual warfare before the pandemic, you know your folks ain't bombarding heaven at home. It's sort of like the preparation time came before the test. Now the test hit, and what you see evident from your members and from your church now is the proof of the pudding of what you put in. So now for me, I'm already in my mind, okay, when we get back, I'm not thinking about what praise break is going to be. I hope they have one. But as soon as that praise break over, this is where we're going in Christian education. This is where we're going in church growth. This is where we're going in discipleship to sort of firm up and add some foundation and some concrete to areas of our individual lives that have not really been fertile.
Yeah.
One of the most potent places I think that we have opportunity is what we say we are in terms of connection. There has to be more we conversation between clergy. There's got to be more we conversation amongst community, and it can't just be an AME thing. You know, we got strong 200-year fiber, but it's going to take more than that to lift the kind of demons that we're facing in these days. So, you know, we can't get back in our church and then not reach out to our Baptist brothers, our Kojic brothers, our Pentecostal brothers and sisters. We can't get back in our church and go back to business the way it is. It's gonna take a moment for us to pull it all together. What do we do to create a culture of community outside of our church?
I'm gonna say two things. The first thing I'm gonna say is number one. And I'm 100. Y'all know me. I'm just gonna say it. We got to stop fighting each other. And as pastors, as community leaders, we gotta say our community is more important than our issues with each other. And if we have issues with each other, that's personal. Leave that outside. When it comes to the community, though. Let our community be more valuable than our personal disdain for each other. Right. We got to get beyond personalities in the church, and all of us, the four of us on here, for some reason we've been stuck on personality so long that we have forgotten the real personality that the church is rooted in, which is Christ Jesus. we've stopped taking on his personality, and because we've allowed man's personality to permeate our ministries and our churches. That's the first thing. We got to work together, and it doesn't matter whether we disagree on certain things. We can't take things personal. That's the first thing. The second thing that we have to do is we have to be really intentional about making this thing work. And I hate to say this, sometimes we just got to move a little slower on some things, because sometimes we can move so fast that we can outpace the need for what we're doing. There's nothing wrong with being intentional with your steps, with your work, and with what you're doing. Everything doesn't have to be a sprint. We don't have to run. We ain't always running against the thoroughbreds. Sometimes we are running against the footmen, and we just can't. We got to remember that we can't always move so fast, but we have to be super intentional about making sure that what we're doing is going to make a difference in our church. We got to get outside the walls. We got to do some things that we've never done before. Right now, everybody is equal. Don't nobody got a mega church no more. All of us got pretty much a mega church, because on Sunday morning, you can have 1,000, 2,000 people watch your broadcast between one Sunday to the next Sunday. That means that people have seen your broadcast that normally haven't watched it or seen it before. And then you got mega churches. All of us right now are mega, period. So we have an opportunity to affect change and make a difference, but we have to be intentional about it.
Yeah, I was that last thing when I was in Louisville. To Jack's point, there are a lot of different activists together in Louisville, and you got people who. When we went to jail, I was in jail with 19 men who were part of that protest. Two were Muslim, one was Palestinian Muslim, one was African American Muslim. It was 7 white guys, and the rest of us were African Americans, different cultural, Caribbean backgrounds, etc. And so the diversity of the group was astonishing, number one. But then you got activists when they come together. You got people who focus on different aspects of activism. You got civil rights, animal rights, just people who just they on Facebook doing activism all the time. And so when we brought in Reverend Dr. Jamal Bryant, Pastor Newberg, and he was speaking at a lot of the marches and rallies, there were groups there who in the past have had problems with Dr. Bryant because for whatever one reason or another. But under the guise of what was important, as Pastor Dr. Jackson said, wasn't nobody there to be beefing with Jamal Bryant in that moment. Right. The issue was not about Jamal Bryant. The issue was Breonna Taylor. Right. And so when he spoke the words and he spoke truth to power, we didn't have time to fight amongst each other because everybody was in one accord about what this fight was about. And so just to echo the echo the words of Dr. Jackson, the church is on fire right now.
Yeah.
Okay. The church is on fire. And we ain't got time to figure out who gonna bring the water hose. Whether this group gonna bring the water hose, the Baptist gonna bring the water hose, the AME is gonna bring the water hose, the non-church goers gonna bring the water hose. The church is just on fire. We need somebody to get some water to put it out.
Yep.
Yeah.
Pastor Nate, what you got, man? Let's wrap it up.
And I think a couple of things. I think we gotta learn how to give some stuff away.
Ooh, that's good, man.
If you really want, if you want to show love, the Bible says God so loved the world that he gave, right? And so if we as churches are going to build community, we got to give a little bit. So, so we don't have to do everything. That's one of the things. What my church going to do, my church got to, me and my church going, man, let another church have something and support it.
Exactly. That's major.
And so I think if we learn how to give, it'll open up some doors. It'll open up some relationships, and let them do it well. And then I think that's a start. But I gotta pull back into this social justice thing. I was just sitting here thinking and listening to everybody talking. I was thinking about Naboth's vineyard in the Book of Kings. and how the king Ahab, he just wanted to have his land. He just wanted to have his stuff. So what he did was he devised a way to use law enforcement and the judges of that day to come up with a plan to have him arrested for absolutely nothing. So since the beginning of time, people were definitely in antiquity. People in positions of power and authority have used the justice system, or the judicial system, that's a better way to put it, and quote the law enforcement officers of the day to falsely accuse people. And Naboth ended up getting murdered. He was killed just so that Ahab could have his land. All right. So when that happens, when that happened in the Bible, the next chapter, you turn over, Naboth is dead, Ahab gets the land. The next chapter, what happens? God sends the prophet. God sends Elijah to come and speak truth to power. And then they have the showdown with the fire, with the prophets, right? So I just want to remind people who, members of the body of Christ, clergy, that when stuff like this happens, God sends the prophet. And not only to talk, but to demonstrate the power that God has over those who are in positions of political power, because God's power is always stronger and higher than that. So then, how does that look in the 21st century? That's what we got to figure out. But I just want to remind us of our responsibility and our duty, that when this happens, God sends the prophet. And so we can't look for anybody outside of us. We got to look within and be prepared to do our part.
Man, I'm so glad that we were able to get together tonight and conclave about what it is we can do, about our possibilities, our opportunities, our challenges. And man, God's looking for us. The community is looking for us.
Right.
The church used to be the voice of the community, but if the church is not a part of the community, it can't speak for what it's not a part of.
You're right.
Right now, it's a tremendous opportunity for us to provide leadership for those who are looking for leaders. And I don't think it's the case that the people aren't looking for the church. I just think we got to wave our flag a little bit more intentionally. I look forward to more conversations like this. Pastor Trey raised up, hey, we need some sister voices up here. Next time, we got to get some sisters.
Man, there's all sisters out there too.
Yeah, when we do this again, let's each one bring one. And we'll double this number up and have a more effective and collective conversation. But I believe we got a lot of insight out tonight, got a lot of good commentary.
And I just for 2 seconds, I just want to say we also in our churches got to be very intentional about letting it be known that the Black church values the Black woman, that we have an issue to raise to protect the Black woman.
That's right.
Because there's not enough people, there's not enough institutions, I want to say, that are upholding the Black woman. Listen, none of us are pastors without the Black woman, right?
That's
Come
right,
on, man.
That's right.
So that's our duty.
That's right.
Yeah.
RJ, thank you, Pastor RJ. Thank you for having us on, man. We appreciate you putting it together.
Oh man, thank y'all. I mean, I jumped off another Zoom, another stream, and all that kind of stuff because I mean, this is something I felt like we had to do. And hey, let's get on it. Whenever y'all need me, call me. Let's get it done. Everybody milk what you got. Do the best you can. We'll all push on together. All right.
All right, man.
God bless y'all. Have a good one.
Thank you again.
Thank you, man.
Yes, sir.
Good night, y'all.
Good night.